Hi, hi everybody, and welcome to my Q&A session. It's 2 p.m. on Monday, and I have got a stack load of questions from the weekend. Now, I know that so many of you are going through really tough times right now, and that's why I'm doing to make it better. And I know going through breakups at any point is incredibly stressful. Now, that's normal. And given what we're going through right now, this is adding even more pressure to that. So the reason I'm doing these Q&A sessions is that you can drop your questions live into the stream here. So whether you're on YouTube or on Instagram, please drop me your questions and I will answer them for you live. So if you do have any questions about your breakup, maybe you're going through conflict, maybe you are just really struggling in isolation to cope, maybe you're finding it harder than you thought. Now, the first thing I want to cover, which has come through so many of these questions that I've got, is that people are finding it really hard and overreacting. So I had a client phone me yesterday, an emergency situation where she said, "Sara, please, can I speak to you like today?" I know it was Sunday, but I do work quite a lot of different hours and things for my clients. So she phoned me, she was super worried about something. And she said, please, can I speak to you? So for regular clients, I do offer a phone service. So, because you know what, when you're going through a breakup, when we're going through times like we are right now, there's no set time that you're going to feel upset. There's no set time that you're going to feel worried or confused about something. So I took her call last night. So it was about 7:30. And what she was explaining to me was that she had had some contact with her ex and it had sent her into absolute meltdown. Now, she split up with her ex about 3 or 4 years ago now. So this is something that really surprised her. And she was really devastated to say, oh my goodness, I had this really extreme reaction to seeing my ex again. Now, seeing your ex again, I know can trigger some difficult emotions for some of you. Some of you are pleased to be out of those relationships, I know, but some of you find that hard, which is totally normal, okay? That is totally normal. So why was she having this intense reaction? Now, one of the things was that he changed his hairstyle since she'd seen him before. When they broke up, he changed his hairstyle completely. So every time she saw him, it wasn't like seeing the same person. He's actually gone back to that hairstyle again. So this is the first time since they broke up that his hair's the same. So it actually triggered, and she thought it was all because he changed his hairstyle. Now, what I have to point out to you guys is that we are super sensitive right now to everything, okay? And that's not any weakness. That's just human nature to the situation we're in right now, okay? With COVID-19, with the virus, with everything that's going on in the news, you only have to watch the news for literally 2 minutes for your anxiety levels to go up, for your fear to go up, for you to start to lose the grip that you had before you turn the news on, okay? Because it is extremely worrying and extremely stressful. So my point is that if we're in a stressful situation, we are going to take that and it is going to come out on things that we are used to reacting to. Okay, so I know a lot of you are coping really well, are managing to get through the virus. You're just getting on with things. You are self-isolating. You're looking after the kids. For those of you who are single parents, and there's a lot of you who have written in over the weekend, you are the cook, you are the cleaner, you are the mum or the dad, or both. You are the entertainer, you're the homeschooler, you're the teacher. You are literally the emotional support, you are the gym teacher, you are everything all combined. Now, given that, and this client that phoned me yesterday for this emergency session, she basically said to me, Sara, I'm finding it super hard right now to cope. And I had a massive breakdown because I saw my ex and his new hairstyle, and that triggered me off. How can I still be so hung up on this man after all these years? Now, the truth is that she isn't. Okay, but what is happening is that her body is finding ways to release all the stress that she's going through. So obviously there is a lot of stress right now. So this is a way for her to let it all go. So her body's thinking, she's a little bit upset by seeing her ex's new hairstyle. It's reminded her of when they used to be together. This is a trigger. Okay, thank goodness I can now start releasing all these negative emotions that I've got about everything going on right now. So the virus and getting ill, I'm worried about our loved ones, being isolated, the changes in our lifestyle, all those things. I'm now going to just release them on this one thing. You see, your body has a way of protecting you until you're ready to cope with things. And sometimes you need to, well, obviously right now we all need to stay strong. We all need to stay focused. We all need to be doing the right thing for our kids. Okay. So if we're doing that, we're having to suppress quite a lot of emotions. So one thing will happen, which you are used to being emotional about, which you're used to reacting to, and you will see that everything is released during these times. Okay, so the emotions that you might be having may seem heightened to things that maybe you're not reacting to actually that one issue. So for example, this client, she was reacting to what she thought was seeing her ex's new hairstyle. Now, I know for a fact that it wasn't her ex's new hairstyle that was the trigger. There was a tiny part of that, a small part of that, that was to do with her ex, and that was she was dealing with. But a huge part of it was also the stress and anxiety that she's going through right now. So I can see in these, so for example, there's a lady who's had an argument with her mother, who's in isolation, but they've had an argument over FaceTime about something that I won't go into, but it's not a big issue. But for this lady, they've had this huge argument over FaceTime, and it's meant that she hasn't spoken to her for 48 hours. Now, again, this is normal. I don't want you to feel that this isn't normal. We are all coping the best we can. And what we're doing is we're taking our anxiety about everything out on the things, on little things. Overreacting. So it's not necessarily that one thing that your mother's done has upset you. It's the fact that everything right now is so stressful that we are all reacting in a heightened way to things. Okay, so your body will be finding ways for you to channel out letting go. And this is important. We need to be able to let go of that fear, that anxiety, that added stress, okay, that we've all got at the moment. So I think that is why this health walk, one healthy piece of exercise a day, getting out of your home, is so vitally important right now. You know, it's part of my advice anyway for any breakup to move your body. And why do I say that? Because moving your body changes how you feel, whether you like it or not. Now, I know a lot of people, your instinct is to cocoon away, put the duvet over your head, right, and eat crisps or chocolate or whatever your thing is, right? But what I'm saying to you is we need to break through that, and we need to do something different. Okay, because by actually getting out the house and going for a walk, and the weather is amazing right now in the UK, for those in the UK, you know, get outside, have that walk. Obviously, maintain the distancing and all the safety precautions you have to take. But actually getting out and going for a walk, moving your body, even if it's just a brisk walk to raise your heartbeat for 20 minutes, no less than 20 minutes, but at least 20 minets. You know, after 20 minutes, you'll really be able to see a positive impact. But just, you know, even when you're walking, if you just move your arms a bit, that adds another level to what you're doing, which will again stimulate you more. So this is what I'm thinking. Get out the house, do something that moves your body, because this will strengthen. You need to find a way to release that. So I don't know whether you saw my crazy video of me doing Zumba on Instagram a few days ago. You know, I've taken up a Zumba class online. So I went onto Sky, typed in Zumba, and then up it came. Which it was the Zumba class. So I'm not very good at it yet, as you can see from the video. But it's something that is keeping me focused on something else. You know, and moving your body and trying to learn a new skill is actually quite a positive thing to do right now. Something I've always wanted to do, haven't had a chance to do it. So I'm making the time right now to do it. So I'd recommend you do something like that. So go on and just find something like Sky or an exercise class, or maybe a boxercise class, something where you can let out those fears. Because otherwise, what you're going to see is you're going to see heightened overreactions to things, which is leading to a lot of these emails. So arguments with your mother. There's somebody else here who's fallen out with his father. Again, another thing that they've had a disagreement about. Now, that disagreement is a real disagreement. I'm not disputing that. It is real. But what I am saying is that in a normal situation, you take the virus out of the situation, you wouldn't be reacting in the ways that you're reacting. This is heightened because we're much more sensitive to little things right now. And sometimes we don't react on the major things. Like if you had a massive breakdown, for example, about the virus and started being really upset and angry and venting, that might freak your kids out more. And so you know you can't do that. So your body is protecting you and reacting in ways that, so it knows your Achilles heel is going to be your breakup. That is obviously going to be your Achilles heel because it's something that's been worrying you for a long time. It's something that's been stressing you out for a long time. Now, that means that there is a weakness there. So if something flares up with there, you will overreact to those things. I'm not saying that it's not justified. And unfortunately, you may have seen on the news this morning that there's a massive increase in domestic abuse situations going on. So violence, coercive control, all those things, which obviously is inevitable if you're locking people in homes with people that are unkind to them. And I use the unkind in a sort of general way, because that can just be being a bit selfish to, violence or emotional torture. So, there are a lot of people in really tough situations right now. And if you're one of those, please drop me a question on the live feed and I will answer it for you, because these are times which are incredibly challenging for so many, many, many people. So if you're not living with your ex, you've got to look at that as a silver lining. I also put a funny video up of a vacuum cleaner, Hoover. If you haven't seen that on Instagram, do have a look. It's about looking for the silver lining where we are right now, because there's so many negatives. It's very easy to focus your mind. And one of the ways to get through stressful times, including your breakup during the virus, is to try and take control of your mind so you can focus on the things that actually can help you to move forward. So instead of focusing on everything that's wrong, which is super easy to do in human nature, by the way, and then, there's more stuff coming out in the news every time you turn it on to worry about. What I'm saying is dip in and out, get the information that you need, get everything. Yeah. Oh, hi, Eric. Eric Edmees has joined everyone. He's an amazing motivational speaker and you should check his stuff out. He's doing loads of good videos at the moment on how to keep fit and healthy and how to feed your body to boost your immune system. So I definitely recommend checking out Eric. I've known him for a long, long time. So hi, Eric. Big kisses to you. So one of the things you need to do is shift your focus onto more positive things that can help you move forward. So try not to get stuck in the news feeds that go on and on and on. Turn them off. Get the information you need, absolutely. Get the safety precautions you need to follow, okay? And then move forward, because it is super, super important that we flood our brain with things that are going to help us right now, because your thoughts will also impact your immune system and how you're coping with things and how you're reacting. So a lot of these emails that I'm getting here are people that are overreacting to situations that are really tricky for them with their breakup. But actually, if you are taking care and feeding your brain with more positive information, then that is good. And taking positive steps. So I got some photos actually over the weekend from some of you who actually implemented some of the information that we discussed last week on these Q&A sessions. One lady had completely emptied a wardrobe where her ex's clothes were and put her clothes in there. So she'd reclaimed some space in her home. Somebody else had changed the way their lounge was. They moved a chair around and I think some of the vases in there. And another lady had gone into the bedroom because I think her ex had left her. I read out one of her questions on Thursday. Her ex had recently left her and her two boys literally the week before the isolation came into place. So it was all very new for her boys and for her. And her bedroom obviously is a really emotive place. So she went in there and she reclaimed the other bedside table for herself. So she put out some flowers, she put some magazines on there, she reclaimed it. So all his stuff was gone. So these things are positive things that we can do. They're actually helping us move forward. It's not just say something positive to ourselves and repeat it over and over, which can be helpful. But actually, it's to take control and actually take some positive steps. And that's what my coaching is all about, is about getting some positive steps that are actually going to force you to make those steps forward. So changing around your home. Somebody else has said she'd done what I said about swapping the knives and forks over. I know it sounds like such a small thing, but it makes a massive, massive difference to you, which is what we want, right? And sometimes the small changes and changing things around, if you're in the marital home still, will make a massive difference to how you move forward. So these things are super important. If you want more tips, there are some in my books, and I put this one up, the split on Amazon at the moment as a Kindle version, just for £1. So you can get all the tips and information in here. So like the negative the antidote to negative emotions. I go into detail about how you can take control of your brain. I'm going to talk a little bit about dealing with betrayal, because I know a lot of you are dealing with betrayal, which can be a super difficult challenge. I think that was one of the hardest things for me. And it's not just necessarily betrayal in the fact that they've had an affair with somebody else. It's not necessarily just that side of betrayal. There's another side of betrayal. I know a lot of you have been writing to me about this, which is you feel let down, on your partnership. So you guys were a team. You agreed to stick together. You were going to do these things together, and you committed to spending the rest of your lives together. And some of you have mentioned some of your vows and things that you've made together. So the betrayal is not just the fact that they'd actually had sex with somebody else. The betrayal is actually probably deeper felt for a lot of you with the fact that this is your partner, your soulmate, the person that you trusted. I know one lady in particular has found it really hard that the last 6 months has been another lady in that mix, and she hasn't known about it. So all those things have been shared between the two of them, and he had those secrets with her, not with the wife. So she feels like it's a double whammy betrayal because she was cut out of that picture, which again can be really challenging, and it's a real hurt. It's a real pain. I don't know if any of you have been through that, but do drop questions in here into the live feed so I can answer them for you while I'm on. But this lady's been talking about that and how she finds that super hard. And one of the things I talk about in my book, both of them actually, is about how to get out of those feelings of betrayal. And I think, again, when you are sat at home in isolation, we are left alone with our thoughts in our head. And that can be very challenging if you can't take control of them. And a lot of the things that I teach you are to take control of this. Now, you have to take massive action in order to do that, okay? It's not just going to happen. Sometimes it's going to need a bit of practice, and it's going to mean not beating yourself up when you don't do it the first time round. But little things can make a difference. So I want you to use this time to heal. And how can we do that? Well, first of all, boundaries are super important, especially when you're dealing with betrayal. What is acceptable behavior to you in a relationship? Okay, and for everybody it's different. For everybody it is totally different. But if you imagine your boundaries as a brick wall around you, which represents what you feel is acceptable behavior. And this brick wall is built up of individual bricks that you've laid, and that forms your boundary around you of what is acceptable behavior from a partner when you're in a relationship. Okay. And then what we need to look at is what's happened to your boundaries. So when you go into a relationship, especially an abusive relationship, they're up here. But then if someone does something, for example, calls you a name, okay, a brick is removed from that wall. So now it's not up like this. It's a bit jaggedy, okay? There's gaps because they do that. And then what we do is we don't stand up for it. We don't say, no, that's unacceptable behavior. Maybe we suck that up. Maybe we go, okay, well, you know what? Thank you for, I can suck that up for you because I know you're having a bad day. Or I don't really like conflict, so I'm not going to dive in and start giving you a hard time right now because I think this is, I think it's kind of understandable where you're at. Or I don't like it, but I don't want to say anything. So that brick comes out, and it's very hard to put that brick back in. Okay, so then can you see how when that happens, the boundary drops and that becomes your new norm? And then another thing happens, and then another thing happens, and you accept it. You say, okay, well, I didn't say anything about the last time, so maybe I better not say about this. And then a pattern forms so that your boundaries are worn away. Now, with any relationship, there is flexibility, which is obviously really important for a healthy relationship. But flexibility is talking about compromise. And compromise is when we're talking about things like, maybe you prefer Indian takeaways and your partner prefers Chinese. And you may have more Chinese just to be flexible, just to make it work. Okay, because that you're a nice person, and that's compromise is healthy for any relationship, and it is essential for any relationship to work. But what I'm talking about here with boundaries is when those compromises become sacrifices. Now, what's the difference? Well, sacrifices are when this eats away at your soul, your integrity, your confidence, who you think you are, your morals, your beliefs. Actually causes you to be less than yourself, causes you to watch your behavior, causes you not to speak your truth, not to shine your light brightly to cover it. So for those of you who know what I mean from an abusive relationship, you'll understand that. For those of you who are looking about what you can learn from your relationship and the breakdown of your relationship, this is really important. And what were the behaviors that you started to notice that weren't acceptable when you were going through your breakup, or now looking back, what wasn't acceptable? Because the thing is, we need to build this wall back up for you. We need to re-establish your boundaries before you start dating again. Yeah, and at the moment, there's no like socializing. So dating is kind of tricky right now. And I know that Ulrika Johnson was in the press, I think it was last Friday, talking about how she'd met this new guy and it was all really hot and steamy and she was having a great relationship. And now this has happened with isolation. She can't see him. And she's super worried that he's just going to fizzle out, because a lot of it is that intensity of being around each other in the early days. And there are people going through those kind of tough times at the moment. But actually, those of you who are dealing with breakup, heartbreak, betrayal, these are really important tools to work on now. And you've got the time now to start thinking about, what would I change? What have I let slip? Yeah, maybe it was name calling that started it off, or maybe it was just not being honest about things that are upsetting you. Maybe little things that were happening, taking advantage. Maybe at the beginning, you shared the chores 50-50, but then towards the end, you found that actually you were doing all the chores. What happened in between? How did that start to slide? And that's what we want to look at. We want to use this time to look back and go, yeah, okay, I can see that he would be like, oh, well, why haven't you done this today? Or what if she might be, well, you always used to do this. Why can't you carry on? So where was the turning point, and where do you need to learn that she's okay to say, no, this is how I want it? And to be honest, we've all got friends, right, who, if someone called us a name, would be like, on your bike, mate, get lost. You know, I certainly have a lot of friends like that. But when it happened to me, I didn't do that. I kind of went, oh, I'm sorry. I know you're having a really tough time. So, you know, this is super, super important. I know Laura's put in there, can you recommend something to read or watch on rebuilding boundaries? Yeah, I mean, there are, I don't know who else talks about it. I mean, it's in both of my books, and the split, as I said, is available on Kindle version for £1 if you wanted to get that. But it's pretty straightforward. Let me explain it. So you need to look at what you want from a relationship. So what is acceptable behavior? And there's no right or wrong for this, by the way. So you can just brainstorm and, you know, whatever you think. So for you, so for example, you just get a piece of paper and start writing down that's heading at the top. What is acceptable behavior for me in a relationship? How do you want to be treated? Kindness, thoughtfulness, taking time out of your day to connect with me, asking me how I am, those kind of things. And then what did you tolerate in your past relationship that you are no longer willing to tolerate? And this is the key, okay? Because you've got your list of what you want, you've got your list of what did you tolerate, and then you can see what the difference is. They're the bricks that have come out, right? So the difference between what you ideally would like and how you would like to be treated, and where your relationship was at the end. And you can start to trace back, well, actually, you know what? I don't want to be called a name. I don't want to be put down. I don't want to be like this little digs, or, you know, I want it to be 50-50 with the chores, or I want them to cook me dinner once a week. Or, yeah, you've got to think about how they treat you, how they treat the people around you. And that's where we start to do like an overall review of what we need to be in a healthy relationship to feel fulfilled and loved. Okay, so that's one really important step. And boundaries will help you to take back a little bit of your control, because if you can consciously see where things started to go wrong and where you were responsible, I'm not saying responsible in the fact that it was all your fault, but we have to take responsibility for where we're at. So one of the keys for moving forward is to take responsibility for where you're at right now in your breakup. Because it might not, if your partner cheated on you, obviously that's not your responsibility, but you have to take responsibility for your own life. So what do you do now moving forward? Do you crumble? Because we have two choices. You can crumble and let this define you and drag this as baggage around with you for the rest of your life. Or you can say, you know what? I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to let it go. I want to move forward. I want to say enough is enough. I'm done. Now, how do I fix myself? And how do I take responsibility to learn from my mistakes? That's what I mean by fixing you. And the only way to let things go is to actually look at it and say, okay, well, where did things go wrong? So looking at your boundaries and where you think the difference is. And I know someone's asked me, how do you deal with a narcissist? First of all, work out your own boundaries. Because if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, your boundaries, if they're existent at all, will be super low. And where they started, it should be up here. And if they weren't up here, we need to look at why they were not up here. Maybe this is something that you've dragged from relationship to relationship. Or maybe you've learned from a parental model or from somebody important to you in your life that you looked up to that boundaries are not important, or they didn't have any, so it's okay to give in on boundaries. So again, there's a big difference. Narcissists will mean that you're making a lot more sacrifices than compromises. And this is something you need to get super clear on for you. So how do you take your control back in a relationship? I've never been in a non-toxic relationship, so feeling insecure and isolating myself instead of taking any risks. I'm not sure that's any more to that. So yeah, I mean, narcissists are a different kettle of fish, guys, as I know a lot of you already know. If you're in an abusive relationship with somebody who has narcissistic personality tendencies, then they will be ripping those bricks out of your boundaries. And one of the important things for you to recover is to work out what your boundaries need to be. Now, that doesn't mean that they're instantly going to pop back up, because that can take a little bit of work for you to maintain them and reinforce them. But actually, the first step is getting consciously clear on what it is that your boundaries how they should be, because they need to be high. Okay, they need to be, the things that you're missing, the things that are hurting you in your relationship, you need to change around, make sure that you put your boundaries back up. So kindness, having your back, not bad mouthing you behind your back, not putting you down, not making you feel less than. So how do you put that back up? Write a list of everything that is important to you in a relationship that you are no longer prepared to sacrifice, okay? Because this is important. You are no longer prepared to take those bricks out. And if someone does try, you turn around and you say, hang on, I'm not comfortable with that the first time. Because now you've got those, what I call red flags, you'll spot them. So if someone lies, if someone's confusing, if someone is making you walk on eggshells, if someone is putting you down, those things will be warning lights. Don't think that you're going into these relationships time and time again. I know Laura's saying that I've never been in a non-toxic relationship. So all your relationships then have been unhealthy. So that's a pattern you've learned. You're kind of addicted to that up and down, up and down, up and down. But actually, the fact that you now know that consciously, you're going to have your radar on for spotting the signs. And there are signs, guys. The first time they lie, the first time they're selfish, the first time they put you down, make you feel uncomfortable, the first time you get that feeling in your gut, like, this isn't right, this doesn't feel right. That's what I need you to recognize straight up. And that's where I need you to deploy your parachute and get the hell out of that relationship. This is not a relationship you need to be in. There are plenty of people out there you can have a healthy relationship with. But because you are empathetic and you are willing to let those bricks come out and you're not going to stand up for yourself, that's why they work with you. They wouldn't work with your friend that would tell them to sling the hook. If you've got strong boundaries in place, you cannot get into a relationship with a narcissist, because they need to feed off you being empathetic, because otherwise they can't manipulate you. So if you stand up and say, no, I'm not interested, no, or you just walk away, that's the best thing to do. So fighting is essential in the beginning of any relationship. No. I'm sorry, no, I'm not saying fighting, not at all. You can still let go of someone kind. You just say, I'm sorry, do you realise that by calling me a name, that makes me feel bad? Is that your intention? And if they say, well, that's your, no, that's not my intention, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that, then maybe you've got something to work with. But if they put it back on you, say, well, what, you're making me feel like that. Of course you are. Don't you realise you're like that? Then you've got a problem. You may still have a problem even if they gaslight you to make but you've got to be aware. So it's not about fighting. Absolutely no fighting. I'm not for fighting. I'm in no conflict if you can, because you're not confrontational, which is why you're so empathetic, right? Which is why we get into these relationships. So actually just fighting it. So there's a difference between having firm boundaries and saying, I don't allow people to treat me like that, so I'm just going to walk away. Before they've got their hooks into you, before you're isolated, before you have no friends to contact, before they've got you with love bombing and all the amazing things that they might put in front of you, before all that happens, you're watching. And as soon as that happens, even if you're in the middle of that, consciously, I know what's going on here, so I'm just going to get out. So that's what I'm saying. What would a normal person do if I set up boundaries? They'd respect them. They'd say, oh, I'm really sorry, genuinely, I'm not going to do that again. And the important thing is they wouldn't do it again. A normal person would be loving and caring and want the best for you. They wouldn't want you to be upset or hurt by any of their actions. So if they felt they'd upset you, you'd be able to genuinely see that they genuinely, not pretending to gaslight you and keep you in, hooked in. They would genuinely be doing their best to, one, make it up for you, two, apologize, and three, it would never happen again. So that's important. But if you feel, if it's, they wouldn't do it in the first place, it's probably where we need to start, okay? They probably wouldn't do it in the first place. And if they do call you a name or do something that makes you feel uncomfortable, they would go, oh my God, sorry, I'm really genuinely sorry. And that wouldn't happen again. So, you've got to really, you've got to be responsible for yourself now you've got to stop this pattern of going back and back and back, because it's not unconscious behavior anymore. What I would suggest, Laura, is you go onto my website. There is if any of you have gone through an abusive relationship and you're not sure why, then we need to give you more clarity, because clarity gives you power. What do I mean by clarity? You need to learn the rules of the game that you're in. You need to really understand what it is that you're going through right now or have been through, so that you can spot the signs, okay? You can fine-tune your radar to spot those signs straight away, because they are glaringly obvious once you've learned what they are. If you're in a relationship with a toxic human being, then you need to learn the rules of their game, because they all follow the rules of a game, okay? Narcissism, personality disorder, behavioral difficulties. I call them difficult people because I'm not a psychologist or an iatrist or anything like that. Just difficult people, okay? They're usually textbook. They do certain things like gaslighting, confusing behavior, lying, making you isolated from friends and family, making you feel less than, chipping away at your confidence and then blaming you, never taking responsibility for anything. All these are classic symptoms. That's what I mean. They all follow the same rules. So go to my website. There's a button at the top left-hand side that says, are you in an abusive relationship? If you click on that, you can get access to a free video series, very short. It just gives you an overview of what is an abusive relationship. How do we get into it? Why do we stay? And how can you get out safely? And then steps for recovery. So I'd watch that first. And then I would definitely check out my friend Richard Grannon on YouTube, because he specializes in this. Now, there are lots of people that say they specialize in this. I would just be super wary of getting sucked into the toxic cesspit that it is, of being stuck in connecting with people going through all this, okay? It's like you want to learn what you need to learn to master the rules of the game, because they do certain things in a certain way, and you will be trained to respond in a certain way. Once you understand that, then get out, okay? Just get out. So it's like the news, like you were saying earlier. You can just read the headlines after a while and get out. That's what I'm saying. Just get in, get educated, learn what they do, like the lying and everything. Learn how you are trained to respond, because you are trained in a certain way, just because it's been going on for so long. Yeah, good old Richard. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Richard. And he's an absolute genius at this, and he knows what he's talking about. And he's a psychologist, which also gives him some credibility there. So I would definitely watch some of his things. I did a seminar with him at Birkbeck University a couple of years ago called Divorcing a Narcissist, where I talked about divorce. Richard was talking about being in relationships with narcissists. And then he actually had a narcissist, Dr. Sam Batman, on stage there as well, which can be a bit shocking and upsetting if you're watching that. So just be aware. But it's interesting to see how narcissists think, and Sam talks very openly about how he thinks about people and emotions. I wish there was a video about how normal relationships look like and feels like. I know how. Well, okay. So think about relationships that you have in your life that are healthy. It doesn't have to be romantic. It could be any. It could be a dynamic with anybody in your life that cares about you genuinely. And that's how it is. It's just actually caring about you and not wanting to upset you or hurt you. That's what it is. Oh yeah, okay. Binge watching Rich Grannon. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I think it's good to get in there and get the information, but then you need to come out and apply it. So you already know a lot of this information. So how can you apply that to your life? What are you learning? What are the signs? What are the textbook behaviors that they do? You seem to know those. So as soon as they come up, you're out. Okay, you've got to have a filter that gets you out. If you get my book, The Split, there's a section in here called Design Your Ideal Partner. Now, this would be a really good exercise for you. I haven't got time to go through it now, but maybe we'll do it later in the week on these sessions. And it's all about putting a safety net so you can recognize the red flags. So you actually, if you get it on Kindle, go and have a look at that section in there, how to design your ideal partner. It's not about dating again necessarily, although it's an essential step if you are going to date again, or when you're going to date again. But actually, it puts a safety net underneath you so that if you need to be able to spot the red flags when you're dating, it gives you everything you need. So check that out. So I hope this has been helpful. Please send me your questions if you have any specific questions, then I will answer them in the session tomorrow at 2 p.m. It's Sara@saradavison.com if you want to email, or you can Instagram DM me or YouTube me a message, and I will follow up and answer those questions for you. So I hope this has helped. Stay safe, follow precautions, but please, try and fill your brain with some positivity and some positive steps that you've taken from these sessions to help you move forward. All right, lots of love, guys, and see you soon.